Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy.
I don't know what happened, but
I hit the record.
it says it's only 6 pages now.
You don't know how to count or do the reading.
Ha 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 ha.
Where is it?
It's on the computer. All right. Ready?
Okay.
Let's go. Our win is going to be May 1990. So I'm picking on the 90s lately. I know it, but I think the 90s are my new 70s. Anyway, our where is a place with a slogan of City of Superlatives. Any guesses?
No. It's a stupid thing.
I know. When I read that, I was like, I'm using that one. No guesses at all?
No.
Well, it's the city Cape Coral, Florida.
That's the best they could come up with?
Yeah. I don't think they appreciate you judging them.
I didn't ask for them to appreciate it.
So I'm going to tell you about 3 females. First, we have 30-year-old Jan Cornell.
Do I need a pen?
No.
You thought about it.
We done listen to what you do with a pen, ma'am. Anyway, sure. Take notes. Go for it.
How old is Jan?
Jan is 30. She has an 11-year-old daughter named Robin Cornell. Jan and Robin have been living in an apartment in Cape Coral, Florida together, which is located right behind the hospital where Jan works as a nurse. Jan had just let her friend and fellow coworker, 32-year-old Lisa Story, move into their apartment. So Lisa, Jan, and Robin all living together, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's as of May 7th, 1990. 2 days later, after a long day of unboxing, on the evening of May 9th, 1990, 5th grader, soon to be 6th grader, Robin asked her mother if she could invite a friend over to spend the night. And Jan told her daughter, "No, I asked you to clean your room today, and you didn't do it, so no friends over."
I feel like you're relating too much to this already.
I was just putting some emphasis into it because I can identify. And Lisa and Jan were exhausted from finalizing Lisa's move into the apartment. So I get it. They just spent the whole day trying to get her stuff organized, move her in.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa was officially moved in, and it was late, but the ladies were done. Like many stubborn children, if Robin couldn't have her friend spend the night, then bare minimum, she wanted to chat with her friend on the phone. Jan, her boyfriend, wanted her to come over, but Jan was tired. However, both Robin and Lisa insisted Jan go visit with her boyfriend, Donnie Batista. He lived extremely close, and Jan pushed away the desire to stay home with her newly moved-in friend and her daughter and told them, "I will be back right after the basketball game. I will be home." Jan left the ironing board set up in the kitchen before she left her home because she needed to iron her nurse's uniform before she'd be at work the following day.
You'd think you'd do that first before heading off.
I feel like it was one of those days that it was like she set up the ironing board. She's exhausted. She's been helping Lisa unpack boxes all day. She's been arguing with her daughter.
Maybe she was hoping Lisa would iron her shit.
Maybe. Or just in general, she knows it's a late night. I'll just do it before I got to be at work in the morning. Before Jan leaves, she tells Lisa, "Don't lock the door. There's a special way to lock up. I'll be home soon. I'll just knock." Jan leaves the apartment.
This already seems like a bad idea.
Yeah. So she drives to Donnie's. However, the game goes into overtime and Jan falls asleep. On the following day, May 10th, 1990.
Oh no, they're dead.
It would be a hellacious day Jan would never forget. Jan Cornell yawned and stretched awake in her boyfriend Donnie's home. Realizing she'd fallen asleep during the game, Jan looked at the time, 4:15. Shit. She had to be at work by 4:30. She needed to get home, to change quickly, and thankfully, Donnie lived, when I said he lived close, it was a 4-minute drive from Donnie's place to Jan's. And the hospital was right there behind her apartment, so thankfully, everything was close. She can make it to work. She can do it. She's on a mission.
Well, and I imagine when she gets home, she's not going to be trying to wake anybody up, so she's going to be tippity-toe in it.
Thankfully, she left her stuff down in the kitchen, remember? the ironing board.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so Jan hurried to try to open the front door. She was angry because the door was locked up so that her key wouldn't work. And damn it, she specifically told Lisa not to lock the front door like that.
Yeah, well, she said she'd be home at night, so.
Now, I suppose it was a split level apartment with an upstairs, or kind of like a duplex with an upstairs, but it's referred to as an apartment. However, there's an upstairs. So while Jan is trying to get through the front door, she thought she heard what sounded like heavy footsteps coming down the stairs inside the apartment. She thought to herself, great, someone's burglarizing my house now, and I'm going to have to walk in on them taking my goddamn TV. I'm probably going to get knocked in the head. I don't have time for this crap. But my kid's in there, so I have to go in. Frustrated and in a rush, Jan runs to the back to the sliding glass door, praying that it would be open. Not only was it unlocked, but the door itself was slightly open. First thing Jan noticed, the house was completely ransacked. Second, Jan noticed the kitchen light was left on. Next, she noticed the ironing board that she left out the night before was still in the kitchen. However, oddly enough, there were 3 frame photos set up on the ironing board. One of her daughter, 11-year-old Robin, a second of Robin's older sister, and the third photo was of her best friend Lisa. Jan knew something was seriously wrong, but never could she have imagined what horrors she was about to find. As she quickly ascended the stairs, she ran to her daughter's bedroom. Jan discovered her 11-year-old daughter unresponsive, naked, and face down on the floor in her bedroom. Jan cried out for Lisa to please come help her. As Jan assessed her baby girl, she was overwhelmed with many emotions: anger, disgust, confusion, sadness, guilt, fear, just to name a few. 11-year-old Robin's legs were spread apart. Her stomach and hips were elevated by a pillow, and a vibrator was between her legs. With no sign of Lisa, Jan had a thought that would forever haunt her. She angrily thought to herself, what the hell did Lisa do to my little girl?
Oh.
And as Jan reached out to try to help her young daughter, as she rolled her over, she noticed Robin's skin was cold to the touch. Before Jan could begin doing CPR on her daughter, Robin, she would first have to remove Robin's torn underwear that were tightly tied around the little girl's throat. As Jan desperately tried to breathe life back into Robin, she noticed Robin's nose sounded congested from crying a lot. Jan called 911 and stayed by her daughter's side until the police arrived to the once happy home. In the process of securing the home and attempting to locate Lisa, officers entered the 32-year-old's bedroom. They find the dead, naked body of Jan's best friend Lisa Story lying across her bed. As the police then enter Robin's bedroom, they take note of the young girl's purple lips and foam coming from her mouth and nose, which is a sign of suffocation. They also observed bleeding from the young girl's vagina and anus. Her torn underwear that Jan had removed from her daughter's throat were left on the floor near the little girl's remains. The detectives also took note that Robin had fought hard against her attacker. The 11-year-old had defensive wounds as well as wounds to her face and back. Detectives began the gut-wrenching process of piecing together what exactly happened to Lisa and Robin. Police determined a man had gone into Robin's bedroom. He fought the 11-year-old. He struck her several times in the face before yanking her off the bed to the floor, hitting her back against the wooden bed frame on the way down. He then tore her underwear off her body, leaving an abrasion on her left thigh and hip. The detectives found 32-year-old Lisa Story was just as brutalized as young Robin. There was a pillow partially covering Lisa's head. Her anal cavity appeared to have extreme injuries and a lot of bleeding. Lisa also showed obvious signs of having fought her attacker, and she had a broken fingernail. There was also a nudie magazine left open next to her bed. But police believe that Lisa was asleep in her bed when the intruder entered her bedroom. The man began assaulting Lisa. He hit her repeatedly in her lower back and shoulders. As Lisa fought back against her attacker, she clawed at the man, tearing off one of her fingernails. The man repeatedly punched Lisa in the face, splitting her right eye. The assailant also repeatedly assaulted the left side of Lisa's neck and repeatedly punched her in the head, leaving her black and blue. Lisa continued to fight for her life, but the attacker was too strong and she was badly beaten when he began anally raping her. Blood poured out of her as the vile man viciously violated her. It was noted that officers openly wept as they left the horrific crime scene. Lots of DNA was left behind, which was all collected as evidence. But again, it's 1990, so there's not a lot that they know.
Yeah, they can't do...
They found hair, they found semen, they found all kinds of stuff. But
without somebody to compare it to, they don't have a database by that time.
right. The vile piece of garbage, all they could say was he was a man.
Hey, was it the boyfriend?
No. But the vile piece of garbage was a male who had blonde hair and type O blood. That's it. That's all they know. So police go and collect DNA from more than 100 males in the area, but the case would sadly work its way into the cold case pile. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months, months turned to years, and for years, the man who took everything from Jan wandered the streets free. Eventually, after 15 years came and went, the unsolved sexual assaults and murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell would resurface. Their story was broadcast twice on America's Most Wanted in 2005. The police received more than 150 leads from the America's Most Wanted episode. The new detective assigned to the case organized the leads by most promising to least. The detective had a good solid 8 leads. That's it, 8 out of that 150.
You just need one.
I know. But it led him chasing down information all over the United States for several years. He also added the DNA found at the crime scene to the Combined DNA Index System, also referred to as CODIS. And there were no matches.
That's weird.
The years would go by. Soon, another decade passes. Through it all, Jan refuses to let Lisa and Robin be forgotten.
Well, how could you?
Right? After years of wondering if the man she just walked past in the grocery store could be the ghoul who raped and murdered her friend and daughter, Jan finally, after 26 long years, received that knock on the door. After nearly 3 decades, police get a hit in CODIS. It's 99.999999% that the DNA that triggered the alert came from the rapist and murderer. Police go hunt down Joseph Adam Zieler. They collect his DNA and bam, slap them cuffs on that little piece of shit because they found their man. Now, who's Joseph Adam Zieler?
How old is he when they catch him?
He's in a 59. He was born in 1962. He was 28 at the time of the attacks.
Did he come on the radar because what did he get picked up for?
I'll tell you about it. Hang on. So he was 28 when he attacked them. He spent 33 years roaming the streets free. So I guess that would have made him 61. But that's a long time to have literally gotten away with murder.
It's not justice.
He grew up in a questionable household. His parents frequently fought. Joseph's father was much older than his mother, who was a teenager when she gave birth to Joseph's older sibling.
Yeah, but that's what they did back in the day.
His dad was violent towards both his wife and their children. Joseph had no idea if his father was actually his father or if the man that he called Uncle Walter was his dad.
Ooh.
Yeah. And his grandmother, he would often run and go hide at her place after school to avoid the beatings that he would endure if he went home. He did sustain a head injury as a child. When he slipped on ice, it resulted in a scar and a permanent lump on the back of his noggin. I figured you'd like that one.
He deserves another smack.
Sure does. Around the time of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell's murders, Joseph's possible father, that Uncle Walter, he drowned.
Oh.
So I don't know if that triggered something in Joseph, but he was then arrested in July of 1990, which is 2 months after the rapes and murders. He was charged with selling stolen property, battery on an officer, resisting arrest with violence, and carrying a concealed firearm. Found guilty and got time served of 135 days. That's it. That's all he got. But it's unclear if the stolen items he was selling were stolen from the home of Jan, Robin, and Lisa, because at the time they hadn't connected that. And we also know that he committed the murders. But at that point in time, nobody knew, okay? I'm just giving you the rundown of what he was up to. There's really nothing else through the 90s or even in the 2000s until on August 27th, 2016, Joseph assaulted his 25-year-old son, Zachary Zieler. And when I say assaulted, I mean he shot him.
Oh, that's not assault.
The son did not die. He was arrested. He was arrested for assault. He claims it was self-defense or whatever, but he shoots his son.
How old is his son?
His son was 25.
Mm.
He doesn't die.
He pressed charges, huh?
Obviously, Joseph was arrested. And thanks to those wonderful changes in 2009's DNA laws, Joseph Zieler was required to give a sample of his DNA to them police, which is what triggered the match with Lisa and Robin's rapes and murders.
Is it not pretty odd that he went such a long time without murdering anybody?
It is. But it sounds like, just doing some reading, it sounds like collect my thoughts into one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only if you're arrested for a felony crime that you have to submit your DNA. And from what it appears, there was a lot of domestic issues, but none of that is a felony, which is why he managed to go under the radar of not submitting DNA.
I'm not talking about the DNA aspect to it. I'm talking about he killed 2 people in a very violent way and then just nothing else and murder-wise.
Nothing. Or at least it hasn't been connected to him yet. Joseph uses some colorful vocabulary when he's interviewed by police. He tells the detectives he ain't got no memory of nothing before his motorcycle accident in 1998.
Well, and that's great. That's great, because we're hoping he has memories. So since he has memories of nothing...
And I was reading about his motorcycle accident. Not only was it a very serious accident, he did get pretty banged up and messed up. It said it degloved his foot.
Good.
Isn't that when it
takes the
peels skin off? Yeah.
It sure is.
Yeah. I was like, oh. He also got him a head injury, a real bad one.
Needed to deglove his whole leg.
I think he needed to deglove other parts of him too.
Dude.
If he claims he has no memory, how can he say he didn't do something? But he said, and I don't know Jan, Robin, or Lisa.
You don't have to know him to kill him.
And then that's when the police are like, okay, well, what do you got to say about the fact that your DNA was found at the crime scene? More specifically, your semen. And he's like, there's a simple explanation. I done had consensual sex the year prior with Jan, who's a filthy ass pig who doesn't wash her sheets, resulting in my semen rubbing off onto Lisa and Robin. I was like, that is the most grotesque.
The worst excuse? I mean, I guess he gets points for creativity, I guess. But what? A year prior? He couldn't have said a few weeks? Even a few weeks is disgusting, but...
Yeah, so...
Should we deduct from all that he never washes his sheets? Or his underwear?
So, I could tell you that in his trial, not to jump ahead here, they do have to ask specifically if the DNA found inside the victims could have been from dried old semen. And they were like, no.
Ew. That's the most disgusting.
It's vile.
I realized DNA was in its infancy in these times, but seriously, no.
The mom, Jan, she's utterly floored because she didn't know Joseph. She's never even seen this man.
No, that was going to be my next question. Is he an ex?
No, she's never even met him. He's already said originally he didn't know any of them and had no connection to them in any way, shape, or form. And then when they're like, well, what about your DNA? He's like, oh, it's because I fucked that dirty ass pig. Dude, that's what he calls her. He tells everybody that she's a filthy ass pig who doesn't wash her sheets. And I was just like, the news articles are very cruel because they broadcast that in their titles of...
So are you.
I'm just telling you his excuse of how his semen supposedly ended up.
Poor Jan. I don't believe it all, you're crusty.
It's disgusting, Claire.
It is. I'm just siding with poor Jan.
So while Joseph sat in jail awaiting his pre-trial hearing, he placed a call to his common-law wife or long-term girlfriend or baby mama, Bonnie Nicely. He told her his past was catching up to him and that he'd been hiding in his room for the last 2 decades and it's done caught up to him.
That's what you get for shooting your boy.
Right? She's the mother of that boy, by the way.
So what was the time frame you said between when he did the murdering to when he got caught?
2016. So 26 years.
So he had that lady in his life when he did the murderings. Was that when she found out she was pregnant with the boy that he shot?
Probably. It lines up. And that's probably why he said it was the year prior with Jan, because it was before they were together.
Mm-hmm.
But he also told the police the Pepsi they gave him during one of the interviews would be the last Pepsi he'd ever get.
Way to prioritize the importance of all the things.
But it's admitting that he knows they have stuff on him. You know what I mean?
Well, he couldn't have possibly. You've got children, you know, when they'll tell a whopper, but they don't even believe it themselves, but it came out. And they're just like kind of shifty eye of see how it falls.
Yeah.
He knows it sounded stupid when he said it.
He didn't do it, but when it came time for Joseph to appear in court, it had been 33 years after the vicious assaults occurred.
Is Jan still alive at this point?
Yeah, she's like 63 now, 64.
That doesn't matter. You can die anytime, Andrea.
I know, but I'm just giving you, she's alive and she's like 64. But anyway, when I tell you this fool was a walking disaster, I'm not exaggerating at all. One of his many stunts he pulled was to wear poorly fitted veneers over his rotten teeth so that when he grinned at Jan, she was horrified to see that he had used a black permanent marker to write killer across the front of the veneers.
He's an idiot.
He would also try to give the jury reasonable doubt by sticking with that story that he had had consensual sex with Jan, and again said she was just a filthy ass pig. He took that all the way to trial.
Well,
he also mailed Jan 3 letters threatening her to stop the case from proceeding forward.
So they charged him with witness tampering?
Yeah.
I guess she's not a witness.
She is, because she had to testify about what she witnessed when she came in. Because she did move Robin's body because she was trying to do CPR on her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So the jury had to hear from the detectives and from the autopsies that were done just how malicious the attacks on Lisa and Robin were. The jury were subjected to the photos of the beaten bodies of both the females. They would hear about how severely Lisa's anal cavity was damaged from penetration, about the fact she clawed at her attacker until her fingernail was ripped off, about the bruising to Lisa's skull, her back, her left shoulder, the sides of her neck, her black eye, and the fact that her tongue was swelled up and pressed against her bloodied, torn lips from struggling for breath as Joseph smothered her to death. The jury also heard about the beating Robin endured. Much like Lisa's beating, Robin had a black eye, bruising to her shoulder, cuts to her left eye and back, abrasions on her thigh from where her underwear were forcefully ripped from her body. She had contusions to her cheek, the left corner of her mouth, and on her chin that were consistent with being forcefully held face down on the ground, most likely as Joseph raped the young girl. They also had to hear about how Joseph's semen was found in an 11-year-old girl's vagina and anus. They had to hear about how she had tears to the deepest part of her vagina from penetration. The jury also heard from Jan about the position she discovered her daughter in, with the pillow propping up her lower half and her legs were spread open. And then Joseph's longtime baby mama girlfriend lady, Bonnie Nicely, disclosed Joseph's favorite sexual position was to have sex from behind with a pillow under her pelvis so he could go deeper. The same position little Robin was discovered in.
Ooh.
Yeah, that would make me vomit. If I knew that the position that my husband wanted to have sex with me in is the same one that he used to rape a child.
An 11-year-old?
Yeah, it's so disgusting.
Does he ever confess to why he picked them, or does he just stick with his whole, the sheets were dirty?
The sheets are dirty. Eventually, the jury would come back with a guilty verdict. Joseph would stand up and make crude gestures at the jury while screaming profanities at them. And then during his sentencing hearing, Joseph stood up and clubbed his attorney using his elbow. So he stood up and then just jammed his elbow into his attorney's face before being tackled to the ground by the sheriffs. And in June of 2023, 61-year-old Joseph Adam Zieler would be sentenced to death ×2. Now, on a side note, the son, Zachary, that Joseph shot, he's at this point 33 years old. He was arrested in February of 2024 on child pornography charges because on February 19th, officers seized Zachary's computer and other electronics and found multiple files of children, some younger than 5, being sexually abused. And he was also arrested in 2013 for assault.
What?
But that is my case. Done. What are your thoughts?
Fuck.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, for one, for everybody listening, lock your fucking door. Whether you're sitting in the car, whether you got home, lock the door. Shut the garage.
Yeah.
Don't dawdle around your car. Get in your car. Get out. I'm sad to say we live in a world where there are disgusting individuals out there just looking for a victim. But take care of yourself, your family. Don't sleep with the door unlocked. Far too many times have we done cases where the people, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is disgusting.
Which is what I think it was for him. I think he just found a door that was open.
Yeah.
A side step off of my side note. That other case that I did where the guy had killed the 2 young girls and buried the one under the slab of concrete, his son Zachary, or stepson, because he found out when they were doing DNA testing that his son wasn't really his son. His son Zachary ended up in jail like a decade later or whatever for murder also. But something about criminals with sons named Zachary. Keep an eye on them. But I thought it was disgusting. He walked free for 33 years.
Well, that's why I said it's not justice.
It's really not. My heart breaks for Jan. Her boyfriend, by the way, they're still together. They're married now. I'm glad she had some sort of support to help get her through this. And it wasn't important, which is why I didn't really add it in there. But her other daughter, the second picture that was on the ironing board, she was a little bit older than Robin. And because Jan had a problem with the boy that she was trying to make her boyfriend, the little teenager that she is got an attitude and was like, well, I'm going to go live with my daddy. And she moved out. So that's why she actually had a spare bedroom for Lisa to move into.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense.
It was just, when I was reading that, I was just like, ugh. And then he had the nerve to be like, I don't know them. And then he writes killer across. How can you say you're not guilty, but then write killer across your teeth?
Because he is the dirty pig who he was just, what is it, deflecting?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's projecting, not deflecting. I was sitting here, that doesn't sound right. But he's projecting.
I wasn't really listening. I was looking to see how long it recorded for. I told you it'd be like 30 minutes.
You're an idiot. But he was projecting the fact that he hadn't washed his sheets in a year and he's a filthy pig. So that's why he was calling Jan those things. He was like, see these underwear? I haven't changed them in a decade. The elastic is kind of good. It's only just a little dusty if you pull it.
He also told Bonnie that that's why he recommended that they have go bags for like emergencies so they could just pick up and leave. A lot of good that did him. Maybe if you're trying to stay under the radar, don't go shoot your son.
Well, he was real bad.
But I think the reason he kind of cleaned up his act for a little bit, at least, is that the 2 months after he murdered them and he was like selling the stolen property and everything, and he spent 135 days in jail, I think the fear of being connected to all of that really made him shit his pants on a daily basis. And then when he got out, he decided...
He has a kid?
Well, he was 28. His first son was born when he was 21. So he's got a couple kids. But I think that fear of getting caught for the murders is what made him fly under the radar for so long. He didn't like jail.
I don't think, not that I've met a lot of people that have been in jail, but I've never heard or met anyone that's like, you know where I want to be? Prison.
But that's Joseph Zieler, the piece of shit that he is.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.